Was it? Yeah. So did you all do any revision or anything in the summer vacation, or was it just fun? It's okay even if you'll answer no. That is not a problem at all. Yeah, I just wanted to ask. No, nobody's answering. What happened? I did. Okay. You can unmute and answer also. Not an issue. You can interact so that even I know y'all are awake. Y'all are there. Okay. Uh, what happened? I mean, you can't, as in you have some audio issues, or I did read it all twice or thrice. Oh, nice, Sujat. Okay, good, good. Okay, so I just wanted to know, like, if you, if you did some kind of revision, or it was like a complete break from studies. Okay, cool. So few of you said you all revised, few of you said you took a break. Anyway, in this chapter we are going to come across 2-3 terms from cells chapter. So that time I will ask you all if you remember. Could I leave and rejoin? Yeah, Suhani. Yeah, do that. I'll just wait for 2-3 minutes. It's okay. Okay. So your school has started, or do you have summer vacations in school also, like ongoing?
Ma'am, my school hasn't started yet. It will start the next Monday.
Next Monday. Okay. Okay. Cool, cool. Acha, so the minute, like the second week itself, you'll have exams. That's sad. ठीक है. Okay. So what we'll be doing is, yeah, so all of you are from Podar only, right? No other school here. All Podarites.
Ma'am, I'm from APS Pune.
APS Pune. Okay. So you are having, so your school is starting from next Monday, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Acha, ठीक है. Not to worry. And what about the Podarites? When is your school starting?
Ma'am, ours will
14.
start on 14 June.
14 June. ठीक है, ठीक है. Okay. Cool. So I just wanted to say that before your exams, we'll have practice sessions here. Practice tests here. Sorry, not sessions. A week or 10 days before your school exam. So we will schedule short tests, the same kind of pattern, the same syllabus and everything, and we'll conduct it here, right? Okay. So just I want you all to be prepared that yeah, you can start reading, right? You can take up your books again and start reading slowly. So by the time next week you'll be back to books again, something like that. Okay. Let me just check. Is Suhani here? Yeah, Suhani, you're back, right? Shall we start?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. Okay. Okay, so the first chapter we covered was basically cells, cell being the main structural and functional unit of life, right? Okay, so in this chapter we go on to the next level of organization, which is mainly tissues. Okay, yes. So this is just a small flowchart I wanted to use to explain where does tissue exactly come in picture, right? So the first or the basic unit of life is definitely the cell. We spoke about in detail in the first chapter, right? The cell, then what are the cell organelles, what are the functions of cells, what are the types of cells, etc. Right? So, okay, now there is a question for you all. Okay. Do we have to write this? No, not this. I'll tell you when you need to write this down. This is just to give you an idea that uh, where exactly does tissue come in the picture, or like, um yeah, just to give you an idea of that, just as an introduction, right? Okay, so in our cells chapter, we spoke about two terms, right? One was, can anybody tell me what does this mean?
Ma'am, may I?
Ma'am, may I?
Yes.
So, ma'am, unicellular organism is basically an organism which is made of only one cell.
Yes, correct. So basically, an organism which has only one cell or a single celled organism is a unicellular organism, right? And similarly, we also spoke about then the other term, which would be
Multicellular
Multicellular
yes,
organism.
organism.
awesome, multicellular. You're right. Okay. Uh, I'll just write it here. This is single cell or one cell, right? This is multiple cell. Okay. So again, I have a question for you. Do you think unicellular organisms will have tissues?
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Can anybody also tell me why? Why no, if you're saying no?
Ma'am, because
Uh,
a
Because
tissue
you have
is
only
made
one
up of
cell.
ma'am, a tissue is made up of multiple cells, but a unicellular organism is only one cell, so it cannot form a tissue.
Yes, correct. Awesome. Aryan, yes, you are also right. And Samruddhi is also right. Yes. So your reasoning is correct. Basically, unicellular just has one cell, so there is no group of cells to come together and form a tissue. Awesome. Yes. Good, good. Which means you all are up to date with your studies. I'm happy. Yeah. So this is just what I wanted to do as a brief introduction. As you can see in the flowchart itself, right? So these are all different cells. These may be something like cells which are performing, function for nutrition, or some cells which are, you know, yeah, I'll not make an arrow here. I'll just write some other function here. Cells which are involved in protection. Similarly, there can be other functions also. I've just given examples here, right? So basically, all the cells which are involved in protection in a part, right, they'll come together and they'll form a tissue, right? Example of tissue being like epidermis, right? Yeah, we'll be dealing with tissues only. So, yeah, you will get ample examples by the end of this chapter, right? Okay. So all these cells which perform the function of protection, they come together and they form a tissue. Then all these tissues they come together. This just shows that different functions can be interlinked. That's all this. That's why the two arrows like this here and here, which means that a cell maybe which yeah, for this I can write one more here, right? Maybe this will help, right? For example, cells which perform the function of flexibility, they come together to form the tissue. Right now, this tissue, which is also performing the function of flexibility, can can be involved with this tissue offering protection. Right? These two can come together and form a main organ, something like that. right? That's why these arrows diverging here instead of converging to one, right? So this organ will then be involved in both protection and flexibility. This is just a rough example. I mean, it's definitely much more complicated than that, right? Okay, and then multiple organs come together to form organ system, as you are aware of, right? We have different organ systems, right? There's a complete organ system for nutrition, a complete organ system for excretion, for respiration, etc., right? And all these organ systems, like we have the entire uh, nutrition, excretion,
Circulatory system.
yes, circulatory system, right? uh, Respiratory system, right? Nervous system, right?
Reproductive system.
Yeah, reproductive system, correct. So all these cases we are talking about is human, right? Yeah. So we have studied in detail about cell. In this chapter, we will be talking about tissues, more of organ system and organism. These two come in, I guess, your next level, which is 10th, right? In ninth, we only talk mostly, we stop at tissue, right? We are not going into further detail. Organ is like kind of skipped. We directly jump into organ system, where organ system will break it down into organs, something like that. So we jump up one and then break it down into organs and study about them in these systems, right? Which will be mostly dealt in your next grade. Okay. Okay, let's watch this small video. This is also just the introduction video, which mainly talks about this flowchart again. And just a second, why is this? Yeah, okay. Tell me if the video is audible, okay?
What is the fundamental unit?
Audible, right? Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
awesome. So this is also just about an introduction. It's just like something to warm you up also, so to enter back into study mode and warm up for the chapter also. So both ways. Okay. Okay, I'll start the video.
Unit of life? Or in other words, what is the building block of an organism's body? The cell. That's absolutely right. Cells make up the bodies of all living organisms. How many cells do you think an organism needs to live? 1, 2, hundreds? Well, that depends on the organism we're talking about. An organism like amoeba is made of only a single cell. Yes, you heard it right. Just one single cell constitutes the body of an amoeba. This cell carries out all the functions of this organism's body. Be it respiration, digestion.
Sorry,
And the
did
audio
somebody
is
say
not
something?
clear. Like now it's breaking a
It's
lot.
breaking a lot.
Breaking a lot? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Let me reload it. Okay.
You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up.
What is the fundamental unit of life?
Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear.
Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool, cool. Okay. So I'll replay it since you might have missed the first part, right? Okay.
Or in other words, what is the building block of an organism's body? The cell. That's absolutely right. Cells make up the bodies of all living organisms. How many cells do you think an organism needs to live? 1, 2, hundreds? Well, now that depends on the organism we are talking about. An organism like amoeba is made up of only a single cell. Yes, you heard it right. Just one single cell constitutes the body of an amoeba. This cell carries out all the functions of this organism's body, be it respiration, digestion, locomotion, and excretion. What about a cat or a dog? Do they have a single cell? Of course they don't. They have many cells which make up their entire body. There are groups of cells which carry out different functions. For example, all cells of type A will carry out the function of respiration, and cells of type B will carry out the process of digestion. But what are these groups of cells called? Do they have a specific name? Yes, each cluster of cells is called a tissue, and each tissue carries out a specific function. Such organisms with many tissues are called multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms have tissues in their bodies which are placed at specific places to carry out specific functions. This is called division of labor in the organism's body. Can you give me a few examples of tissues in the human body? The muscles? Yes, the muscles are tissues that help movement by contraction and relaxation. What about blood? Do you know that blood is a tissue? Yes, blood helps transport nutrients, hormones, and waste materials as well. Blood is the connective tissue of the human body. Let us look at plants now. Do you think plants have tissues too? Are the tissues of plants and animals similar?
Yeah, I'll just pause it here and ask this to you. So, do you think plants have tissues?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes?
But ma'am, I don't think they're similar to animal tissues.
Okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question. ठीक है, okay. So, since we all agree plants also have tissues, yeah. So, does anybody think that plants and animals have the same kind of tissues?
No, ma'am, they're both different.
Different.
Ma'am, no, ma'am.
No? Okay. Okay, so then let's go on to a more difficult question of asking why do you think they have different kind of tissues?
Ma'am, maybe like some functions plants do not need, like some animals need, but plants don't need some
Ma'am,
functions. That's
plants.
why maybe.
Ma'am, can
Yeah, tell me.
Ma'am, I think that as plants are autotrophs and they have chlorophyll, they have to make their own food, and so their cell functions differently from the animal cells and tissues.
Good example. Yes, Samruti, that's a really good example. Aryan, you wanted to say something?
Yes, ma'am. I was talking about that only. Plants make their own food. They because of photosynthesis, they make their own food. Ma'am, and the second reason I think plants don't have any much of a protection system. They only have a cell wall. So I think it's another reason for different tissues.
Okay. So, yeah, okay, your first point is correct, Aryan. Second point, I will have to, uh, say that maybe no, because
Okay.
plants also have an elaborate protection system, which we will be discussing maybe towards the end of this class or next class. Yeah, but yeah, that point is wrong. Plants do have protection system. Maybe it is not that extensive like humans, but it is sufficient for them. Okay, so I like all your answers. Yeah, Aryan, Samruddhi, and who answered? I missed out somebody. Yes, Sujal. All of your answers are correct, and your examples are also correct. That's a good way of thinking. I'm glad you all answered. Right.
Ma'am,
Uh,
so I am not Sujal.
oh, sorry. So I'm. My bad. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, so basically, you are right. If you look at plants and animals, oh, it is going to let me write on this. Awesome. Right? The main thing, like food production, came into your mind, like the one main difference, right? Another main difference would be movement, right?
Locomotion.
Yes, locomotion or movement. You won't see a plant getting up and going for a stroll and coming back, right? They'll be at their own place. They are fixed. Plants don't move. So happens is because of these two, plants don't really need to move around to find shelter, to find food, or to find water, right? Water is a disputable point here because, yeah, the roots do expand to a long, regions till they find water. So, yeah, water may be no, but definitely food and shelter, they don't need to move around, right? So, because of these two main points, is the reason why animal tissue and plant tissues are very, very different. Like they differ on a large scale, mainly because animals, yeah, we are more adapted towards moving, so we will have living tissues, right? Because our tissues need to perform maintenance, continuous maintenance, need to move, need to help us move, need to help us procure food, right? So continuously, all these tissues will be working. Yeah. Whereas what happens is plants just mainly they need specialized functions for support, should I say, or strength, right? This is the major function or major health issues will, if you notice, are dead tissues, right? Okay. I guess they are going to talk about the same in the video. We'll continue our discussion post the video. Okay, let's get back.
Do you think plants need the same tissues as humans? Logically, they do not have the same tissues as humans do, but they do have tissues. Let us see what the considerable differences between the two are. Do plants move from one place to another like humans do? No, right? Plants are stationary and their movement is restricted. So a closer look at a plant tissue will make you realize that most of them have dead tissues. Yes, dead tissues. And why do you think plants need dead tissues? The answer is quite simple. Plants only need mechanical support. Hence, they do not need living tissues. Dead tissues serve the purpose of giving support to plants and they need very little maintenance. What about animals? Do
Excuse me,
animals
ma'am.
move? Yes.
Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, what do you mean by dead? I mean, they are just there to support the plant, or they perform any functions as well?
They definitely perform functions, but the main function would be to provide support. Support as in, okay, if I should explain, I can explain it. Okay, let me draw it and explain it to you, right? Suppose I'm definitely sure all of you must have seen a plant somewhere or the other, right? If not in your house, outside, etc., right? If you notice, the plant is some of the plants stay steady like this, versus there are some plants which, if you might have noticed, are there coiled on windowsills, right? These are called creepers, just to give you an idea. Versus these are upright, right? Main difference, if you would have seen, would be in coconut and palm trees. Palm trees are these small upright coconut trees, whereas coconut trees, if you see, they are always, like bent. Always they look like they're going to fall down any second, right? Okay. So here what they are basically trying to say by support is the tissues are involved in keeping this straight, right? All these tissues will be located here, and this is what helps or enables the plant to stay straight and not fall down. Surprisingly, they are also there in this, in coconut also, and in creepers also, right? Okay, they are there in all plants. So basically, the support point here would refer to letting them bend without breaking, or letting them stay upright, depending on the type of plant. So that is the major function of tissues. Of course, there are other tissues which are involved in food production, right? Which are involved in waste removal or waste transportation, or food and waste or food and water transportation, right? Okay, but majority, basically they're trying to say is the majority percentage is involved in support. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. So in this chapter itself, we will be dealing with plants and animal, both plants and animal tissues. in detail. So yeah, maybe by the, once we are done with the chapter, you will have a better idea as to what is dead or what is mechanical support, etc. Okay. Okay, I'll resume this.
Animals move from place to place and they need tissues for purposes more than just physical. Almost all tissues in animals are living tissues. These tissues need nutrition, which they get from the organism's body. What else could be a possible difference between the two? Do you know that there are two types of tissues in plants? One type of tissue lies on another type of tissue. Well, plants do not grow uniformly throughout their body. Their growth is restricted to some
Ma'am, it's not
specific parts.
audible.
In these
Mama,
parts,
you're
we
doing the thing.
Audio issues, not audible.
Yeah, ma'am, it's audible,
Ma'am,
but
it's
it's
breaking
cracking
a
again.
lot.
Cracking again. Oh, okay. Acha, ठीक है. Let's go back to the slide. Leave this. Anyway, we'll these all points we are going to be discussing in the chapter. So I just wanted to give you a brief introduction as to the difference between plant and animal tissues. Okay. ठीक है. We'll go back to our slides. Okay. Yeah, so this is the basic definition of tissues, which, which even if you just look at the flow chart here, I mean, you can get it from the flow chart here. This is a basic level definition, which I have written in the box, right? So basically, tissues are nothing but a group of cells which have similar structure or are similar in structure and or work together to perform uh, a particular function or to achieve a particular function, right? So even if you just remember something like this, like cells come together to form tissue, if you remember this part, I think you will be able to remember the definition also, right? So they will definitely be the same type of cell, right? A group of cells similar in structure and function, right? Okay. Okay, yeah. So yes, this is again the question which was there in the video, and yeah, some cartoons for you to enjoy. Okay, so are plants and animals made of the same type of tissue? We discussed it. It is given in simple points, right? Mainly the main difference being, like you all already said, plants can produce their own food, right? And they don't move, versus animals don't produce their food. That is the main reason they move, right? Okay. Okay, so yeah, this point here, which is the third point, is what we will be discussing in detail as the first uh, part of the chapter. Like the first part of plant tissues is what we will be discussing, that why the growth in plants is limited to certain regions and why it is uniform in animals, right? We will discuss this in detail, right? Okay. Yeah, again, this is just in a tabular format. I have just included all these because when you're reading for your exam or when you're preparing on your own, like you might not exactly remember why I had said what where. So I've just added these. These tables and difference between are also there in the chapter notes, right? So you can refer to that, you can refer to this, anything is fine. Just whichever you are more comfortable with, right? Okay. Note is, in this chapter you have a lot of diagrams, right? I'll just write it here, right? This chapter has a lot of diagrams which you need to know. You are going to either be asked to draw it or you will be asked to identify the tissue based on the diagram, right? So they are very, very important. I would suggest that you must practice. I'll skip the diagrams. Don't do that, right? Another thing important would be, yeah, this is how you should remember each tissue. Okay, three things anytime you take up any tissue, and I have also tried to keep the slides that way only, so that you can see the 3 points as and when you're studying. You don't have to search a lot, right? Okay, I'll make it a star. Oh, it's not with for each box. Yeah, write it in a box and write no anything. However, you usually remember things. Tissues itself, there are many tissues. Again, there are a lot of flowcharts and mind maps already there in the PPT, so you don't have to go searching for them. You can use those to remember. But each tissue you talk about, let's say we discuss plant tissues, right? So for each plant tissue we discuss, you should be aware of the location. You should be aware of characteristics. Characteristics, what do I mean by characteristics is exactly that, sorry, whether they have thick cell wall or thin cell wall, whether they have intercellular spaces or not, whether they are thin, whether they are thick, what is their shape, size, etc. All that will come under characteristics or some special distinguishing feature, right? All that comes under characteristics or features. You can also call this features, right? And functions, definitely, right? Usually you just need to remember location and function like we did in cell chapter, right? Cell organelles we spoke about, like if we spoke about nucleus, you just had to know the basic diagram maybe and the functions like it's the brain of the cell or it contains genetic information, etc. Here you need to also remember the characteristics in addition to these 2 points. Okay. So yeah, when you're reading or when you're, trying to remember or quiz yourself, you know, remember it like this, like, what is the location? So you and then you fill in the blank that yeah, it's present here. What are the characteristics? You fill in the blank. And what are the functions? So if you study like this from the beginning itself, you will not face that many difficulties or confusions as the number of tissues keep increasing, right? Okay. ठीक है, let's jump in. Yes, so this is a flowchart or mind map or anything you call it for a plant tissue, right? So we are going to, this covers the entire plant tissue which will be discussed in this chapter, right? So in that we have two categories, which is meristematic and permanent, right? Okay. In meristematic, you will have three: apical, lateral, and intercalary. I'm just like introducing it here. Don't worry, we have everything in detail, right? All of it is there in slides, images, everything in detail. So this is like this would be helpful when you revise the chapter, something like that. I'll write it here, revision, so that when you're revising you can just look at it here and say that I've covered this, I'm done, which all are left or which I need to finish or what is the function for tracheates, etc. Right? Everything in one page you'll get it. Okay. In permanent tissues you have
Ma'am, do we have to write this?
no, don't write it now. I'll be sharing the PPT after class tomorrow, so not to worry. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Don't draw this now. I'll tell you what you need to write. In the coming slides, you will have things to write and draw. Right? Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Just a second. Why won't it go back?
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. You will you share this PPT in the group or?
Yes, I will be sharing the PPT with you on the group.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So first, we will be talking about meristematic tissue as our first topic. Then we'll move into permanent tissue. Okay. We'll what I'll do is once we are finished with each subtopic, I'll come back and revisit this flowchart so that you also get a better idea that okay, what did we finish and where are we at the moment, or exactly how do you make sense of this chart, right? This will be helpful. Right, so first we'll finish meristematic tissue and we'll come back to this. Sorry, just a second. Yeah, okay. So if you would have noticed in the video, the person said a few key points, right? Which was this, that plants do not um, have regions. Okay, let me write it. Okay, from here you can, yeah, since we are now into the chapter, we are done with the introduction and everything. So from this point onwards, all the everything on the slide itself is important, and stuff which I might be writing is also equally important, right? Okay. Okay, so coming back, uh, or for now, what you can do is instead of copying everything down, you can just make a note of the key points, whichever I tell you. You can do that, right? Maybe writing everything might be tedious at this point, whichever is fine with you, because we need to, discuss about the slide also, right? If you are more focused only on writing, you might miss out on what I'm saying. That way I'm saying. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just tell you key points to write. You can write those for now. Then after the class, you can revisit the PPT and make notes, right? Okay. Yeah, so the person in the video, and as mentioned in our first or second slide, there is this point, right? Plants do not divide throughout. Okay, or something like plants do not have regions of active growth everywhere, isn't it? So here is the entire part explained, or the entire concept, that why they don't divide throughout, or why do they have only special regions. Okay, if I were to write, let me write it like this: plants have only is a keyword here, only certain regions of active growth, right? Which is basically okay. There is no definition as such for the meristematic tissues. They are just used to refer to regions of active growth, right? Or you can say that they are made up of actively dividing cells, right? Or basically, meristematic tissues are the regions where active growth is taking place. In simple words, if I were to say, right? That's meristematic tissues. Okay. Function, it is again, yeah, of course, if it is the region of active growth, the function is going to be growth itself, right? Okay. And there are three types of meristematic tissues based on their location. Location being mainly where they are found, right? There are three: apical meristems, lateral, and intercalary meristems. Okay. Now to give you an idea of these three terms, apical refers to anything which is like the tip. Okay. When you discuss plant anatomy, or plant physiology, anything in general, Again, something which you will be discussing in detail in the coming years, right? You are going to come across terms like aerial parts of the plant, right? Apical parts of the plants. Okay. Aerial basically refers to anything which is exposed, or which is in direct contact with the atmosphere, or which is exposed. Something like, if I were to say, uh, the ends of the plant, right? The ends would definitely mean the roots, and maybe there is a flower here, right? So these would become aerial or apical. Both mean the same thing, right? So if you come back to the figure here and notice, apical here would refer to the tips. So that tip can be above the ground, which is nothing but the topmost part of the plant, or that tip can be below the ground, which is nothing but the roots, right? The tip of the roots, or if you want to be very precise, you could say the tip of the roots. So that's apical, right? Okay, we're done with apical. Coming to the second, lateral, right? So what exactly is lateral? Okay, so in a plant, the stem region, right? The stem in younger plants and in older plants, or in trees, right? Trees are known as older plants, or more mature plants to be, right? Yeah. Okay, so suppose this is your tree, right? This trunk region, let me use a different color. This region right here, or this region in a plant, or this region which is shown in the figure here, is known as the lateral region, which is basically nothing but the stem, right? If I'm right. Okay, this is tips, this is stem. This is how you remember these words, right? Because a few of them might be new to you. Okay, yeah. So lateral basically would refer to the stem region or the trunk region, right? There you have another meristem which is known as lateral meristem. So they all perform the same function of growth, they just have different names based on where they are, right? Okay. And the third one is intercalary. For that, I might have to clear this. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I'll draw a plant for you here. Okay, do you have, do all of you have plants in your house? Like, do you keep a
Yes, ma'am.
garden? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Then I'm going to ask you to observe something after of a plant. Okay, right? You will notice there are these tiny regions. Okay, tips I mean to say is, here you might not find what I'm asking you to find. Look up here or here if find these things like this. Okay. The things I want you to look for or notice are nothing but these. There will be these small leaves. Okay, very tiny leaves right next to the stem, or like below the leaves, or nodes. Yeah. Yes, Sujal. Right. So these small leaves, or wherever you find them, either they will be distinctly present on the stem, like in this diagram, or they might be just below big leaves here, like this one, right? These regions are known as nodes. Okay. So yeah. So again, I'm going to give you 2, 3 things to search for after class, right? One of them is written here already. I'll just add it here, right? Look for nodes. Okay. Yeah. So if you notice these regions, and as Sujal rightly said, they are called nodes. These are the regions or places where the new leaves will form, and they'll eventually grow into these big leaves, right? Okay. Now, why am I talking about nodes is because,
This means they
uh,
have to look, be, and act a certain way. The bandwidth and pressure into deep.
okay. So why am I talking about nodes is because for you to understand the meaning of intercalary, you need to understand the meaning of the word internode. For that you need to know what is a node, right? So I had to go the long route. So now I'm coming back to intercalary, right? The tissues or the meristems which are present, I'm going to use pink color here. Okay, so the meristems which are present here, which is between these two nodes, are known as intercalary meristems. Okay, now if you come back to this figure here, it might be clear, right? So I can just label this as node. So this becomes intercalary meristems, which are between two nodes. Okay. Yeah, now don't consider two nodes मतलब इधर एक है और इधर एक है, तो the meristem which is in between here is intercalary. Not like this. The two nodes lengthwise, right? Lengthwise distance is what we are talking about. Okay. So this is just a rough idea. Like again, after class, you can go and yeah, not an issue, Suhani. It's okay. I understood and I muted you. Not to worry. Okay. Yeah, so that's why I want you to go and look for nodes, so it will help you understand. So when you go and see the plant, right, you see the nodes and then you also see if you can identify where these three meristems could possibly be, right? Should I write it here? Identify meristems. This will help you in understanding the concept, right? The next time somebody asks you, or some maybe your sibling or maybe your family member just suddenly asks you, oh, you're learning about meristematic tissues, what is this lateral meristem, can you tell me? Or I never understood what is that. So you should also not be in a position that, oh, it is a new term, it is difficult, we don't know what it means. So if you are going to look at the plant right now itself, you will know, like it will be registered forever that acha apical means upar ka tips, right? Tips, both up and down tips are apical. Intercalary means between the nodes, and lateral means basically the stem, which is here, right? Okay, so this is just the basic uh, basic I wanted to cover. So this diagram again not really asked because they have other diagrams to ask you, right? So I haven't really seen any question where they ask you to draw the meristem. Yeah, the question you might get is they might just remove these labelings and they'll ask you to label which is which. Not draw but label, right? I'll just write it here. Label might come. Okay. Okay, coming back to the characteristics. Okay, as the cells of these tissue are very active, active means they divide. Okay, that's what active means. They keep dividing continuously, right? So they have a dense cytoplasm, thin cellulose walls, and prominent nuclei, right? Thin cellulose walls, again, I will help you here, is because I don't know if you remember, we had spoken about cell division in cell chapter, right? So they okay, let me draw something like this. Okay, cells divide by this process called, it starts with M. Can anybody help me?
Ma'am, could you
Binary fission.
I couldn't hear you. Sorry, could you repeat?
repeat your question?
Oh, question. I was asking that cells divide by this process, right? This process which we spoke about in that cells chapter also. And that process starts with M. Like, so I wanted you to complete the name for me.
Fragmentation.
Ma'am, it's binary fission.
Binary fission, are you? No, 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 no.
Wait.
Binary fission is a type of cell division, yes, but it occurs in unicellular organisms, right? Okay, the word I was looking for here was mitosis. Now do you remember? Mitosis, meiosis.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have not yet covered binary fission as such, right? In cell chapter we just spoke briefly about meiosis and mitosis, right? Basically because of the number of daughter cells formed after division. That was all that we covered actually, right? Okay. So yeah, so what I wanted to show you using this diagram was that this point I'm covering for you. Why the thin cellulose walls? Is because the cells split like this, right? Should I draw it here? Okay. So there is one cell, right? It has nucleus, it has small organelles, etc. Blah blah blah, right? Then the second step in division is it elongates to something like this, right? Or okay, wait. I'll have to clear my screen. Wait. What I'll do is I'll go back to that PPT since we have. Just a second. Let me see if we are able to get that PPT. Yeah, here it is. There is. I remember there was this cartoon in that. That's why I wanted to go back to that instead of drawing a figure and explaining. I could just. Okay, till it loads, you can. Okay, why did this? Huh. I hope you've taken those things down. That what you need to find out, right? Find out why they lack vacuoles. Then find out what are nodes, or just look at them. See if you're able to see nodes in your house plants, right? And you need to identify or just picture where the meristems are in your house plant, right? Three things. That is homework.
Mom, can you show that slide?
Yeah,
Mom, not this. Yeah. Thank
fun,
you, ma'am.
right? Huh. Okay. So they lack vacuoles. Yeah, I want you to think over it little because we have discussed about the function and basically, yeah, the function of vacuoles, right? What is their role in cells? So just connect the two and think that why they don't have vacuoles, right? It's all got to do with the cell being active. I will give you a hint here because the cell is dividing. That's why they have these kind of features. Okay. And this feature, right? Dense cytoplasm, thin cell walls, and prominent nuclei. Prominent nuclei, again, they will have prominent nuclei because the nuclei need to divide, right, to give rise to daughter cells. And I'm explaining the second point here, which is why do they have thin cell walls, right? I wanted to show you that mitosis ka cartoon. Here it is. Yeah, I found it finally. Right? I hope you remember now. Correct. So this one cell, it will look at this purple figure only. We are not interested in the right wala diagram. We are interested in mitosis, right? So mitosis may what happens is that one cell will elongate and divide into two daughter cells, right? Because the cell is going to I use the pen here. Yeah. So because the cell is going to divide, it needs a prominent nuclei so that the nuclei can also divide, right? And form into two daughter cells. And why thin cytoplasmic walls? Why thin walls? Is because the cell division happens like this. From outside it goes to inside, right? That's why I made this kind of a very strange diagram here, right? Just to show you that the breakage happens like this, right? So here that it will split. Okay, yeah. So basically the cell will split like this here completely, and then this will form one cell and this will form another cell. Thick walls, think about it now. If I'm saying this for that poor fellow to break it into half, right? On its own. Right? So that's why they have thin walls. So use this same logic and find out why do they lack cytoplasm. Okay. I have given hint also. Okay, and yes, I will not forget.
Ma'am,
I
they
will
don't
ask.
lack cytoplasm.
Oh yeah, sorry. I meant they lack
Ma'am, they lack
vacuole.
vacuoles.
They lack vacuoles. Yes, thank you. Yes. So yeah, I will ask you this in tomorrow's class. That why do they lack vacuoles? Let's see who can tell me the answer. Okay. Okay, so coming back, this is again a short table. Like I said, you should remember location, characteristic, function, right? So the characteristic for all three is the same, which is these 3 points here: very active, dense cytoplasm, thin cell walls, prominent nuclei, they lack vacuoles, etc. So out of this, if you remember any two, three is sufficient. Again, but then you give reason question as to why do they lack vacuoles or why do they have thin cell walls. So that time you need to remember. Okay, all. Okay, yeah. So this is just a basic table format of the whole thing, that where is they located and what is the function, the same function, right? Definitely it will be growth. The function is growth. It's just modified for that particular part, right? Apical will basically, because it's at the tips, it will help in increasing the length, right? Intercalary is because it is in between the nodes, it will help you form new cells. Versus lateral will help in increasing the width, right? Width, girth and width refer to this circular. Oh, sorry, it's my pen is not on. Yeah, yeah. Width and girth refer to this measurement. Increase in the diameter, or basically increase in the circular size, is what you would call the girth and width, diameter, thickness, etc. Right? Okay. Yeah. Okay, this small video will you can watch it after class, since I've already asked you to find where the things are like on the plant, so I want you to find that first and then come back to the video, right? Okay, you can. I will share the link. You can watch it after class. We have 2-3 more videos. We'll watch those today. Okay. Okay, meristematic tissues flowchart again. All these are just tools to help you remember towards your exam time, right? That time you might not be in a position to read theory at a stretch. So you can just look at these flowcharts and just remember that, okay, where is what, etc. Right? That is the main reason for.
Ma'am, this whole slide will be shared, right?
Yes, everything. I will share the entire PPT, not to worry.
Okay. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have come to the second part, which is, yeah, let me go revisit that flowchart and explain where we are right now, right? Okay, so here we spoke about, okay, we spoke about meristematic tissues, right? So now you are aware of these three types. We are done with this part. Now we are coming to the second part, which is basically permanent tissues, right? So we are going to be discussing in detail about simple permanent tissues, which are parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, and complex permanent tissues, which are xylem and phloem, and one more type here, which is protective, and which will consist of epidermis and cork cells. Okay. Yes. So in today's session, we will also cover simple, which is these three, and we'll cover protective. Right. In tomorrow's class, we'll do xylem and phloem because these require a little bit more. What should I say? These are a bit more in detail as compared to the other tissues. So yeah, I would like your undivided attention for that. Right. So we'll do that in tomorrow's class. Okay. But today we'll finish parenchyma, collenchyma, sclerenchyma, epidermis, and Cork cells. Okay. Yes, so coming back to permanent tissues, right? Okay. So as the name suggests, so these tissues are permanent tissues, or permanent, if you say anything is permanent, is basically it lasts forever, something like that, right? That's what you say permanent. You have a permanent, let's say permanent job, right? Or something like that. Something is permanent basically means it stays the same for a long time. Okay, in simple words. Yes. So permanent tissues are those. So now if I were to explain in simple terms, let me write it here. Okay. So you already know that there is meristematic cells, right, which are actively dividing. Or basically these are known. Yeah, this will help you relate the from where what is permanent, or where does this permanent tissues come into picture from, etc. Just help you as a brief understanding. Okay. Yeah. So these meristematic tissues which are actively dividing. Oh, actively dividely. Yeah, why have I written that? Sorry. Right, they are actively dividing. So these cells, right, suppose there was this two cells first, they divided and they formed four cells, right? Each of them divides to give you two. That's how they became four, right? So then this one will divide, and then this one will divide, and so on. This process is continuing in these cells, right? Okay. Now what happens is, once these cells are formed, I will take another color, right? This new cell will then undergo differentiation. Differentiation here basically means that I will assign some task to this person, right? For example, if I were to explain it in simple terms, yeah. So you all are part of a class, right? In a school, you'll be like, suppose somebody will be in 9A. Okay, somebody will be in 9B, right? So now in 9A, I will give, yeah, suppose I'll give one of you the task of being the monitor, right? Then one student I will give the task of being the, let's say, what other responsibilities do you all have? Prefect, something like that. I don't know. What do you exactly have? Okay. So one is the monitor, one is the prefect. Suppose one person is responsible for writing the thought of the day on the board, right? You have something like that. Then one person is responsible for all charts, etc. Okay. So you can think of differentiation as this process. Okay. As the process that the teacher is assigning tasks to you all. Like if I were to give you an example here only, like in our class itself, where we have all of you here, right? Suppose I am given Aryan the task of telling me which chapters are done in science. If I tell Swayam to tell me the answer to quiz questions, or give me your quiz scores, something like that. So basically I'm giving you all tasks, right? I'm distributing tasks to you.
Different jobs, right?
Yes, different jobs. Yes, correct. That's exactly what I was trying to get. Yes. Right. So once this new cell is formed, within a short time it has been assigned a task. So I'll tell this cell that you should do the job of protection. You are going to be involved in protecting the plant, right? Then this new cell, I'll tell that, okay, you help in moving food. Okay, you help in transporting food up and down, etc. And so on and so forth. So all these new cells, whichever are formed in this meristematic region, okay. So now for the rest of their life, right? So you don't have an
Ma'am,
option
I
to
have a
change.
doubt.
Tell me.
So, ma'am, the jobs are permanent or like the cells are permanent? I don't understand.
Jobs are permanent. Jobs. Cells will have
Okay.
lifespan. No,
Okay.
cells are not immortal, right? They will die
Yeah.
definitely. exactly. Huh.
Yeah.
Correct. Huh.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So this, yeah, that is one of the main reason why I brought it down to these simple terms and simple words, so that I could help you understand. Because yeah, like you had a doubt, others also have a similar kind of doubt, that permanent tissue, what does that mean exactly? What about it is permanent, right? Yeah. So their task will be permanent, right? So for the rest of their lifespan, they will be asked to do one particular kind of job itself. Right, now coming back to technical terms, yeah, the kind of tasks which will be given to them will be something like protection, something like you are supposed to offer support to the plant, yeah, or you are supposed to just what else can it be? Main are these two, yeah. Then maybe it would be transport, which
Food
is
circulation.
yes, food waste, yes, all those things, right? So yeah, now if you are relating it, now if you have understood that permanent tissues are basically cells which have been assigned fixed tasks, you will get this definition easily, right? Now there is nothing to explain in it, that they will have definite form, yes, correct, and shape. Of course, if I am asking it to move food, I will definitely give it a form where it can take food and give it, right? So I will give the cell storage capacity, that yes, you can store. For example, coming back to this example, like if I am telling, if I have given uh, some person the task of maintaining charts, right? For example, I'm taking Swayam, right? If I've asked Swayam to maintain the charts, I definitely will be giving him the charts, right? I will not expect him to create the charts and, then take care of the whole process, start to finish. I will give him charts. I will give him pins, right? Pins to put on the notice board, to hang the charts, etc. So, such kind of small accessories, or part and parcel of the task or job can be referred back here. So you can say shape as giving the chart and giving the pins to hold the chart, right? Definite form as in, yeah, something like I'll even give you a stool to climb up high places, right? Yes. So, and the most important point would be, they have lost the power to divide and differentiate, which means what? That yes, the cell which is offering protection, which is supposed to offer protection, will keep offering protection till it is going to die, right? Till it dies. This is how it dies, right? This weird cartoon, it looks like this. Dead. Okay, yeah. So till it dies, it is going to offer protection. That's the third point, that they have lost the power to divide and differentiate. Differentiate here does not mean the versus wala differentiate, huh? That difference between plant and animal. Differentiate here means you correlate it to task, you bring it back to task, right? Differentiate here means it cannot take up a new task. Okay. ठीक है. What you can do is, you can draw this or write this in simple words, whatever I've written in pen here, right? Because this, again, when you come back to the notes, again you might have new doubts as to why permanent tissues are permanent, or what is this definite shape form, and what is this divide differentiate. Again, you might get doubts, right, when you're studying. So write it next to these
Ma'am,
points itself.
I'm done.
Done. Okay, good.
ma'am, I have a doubt.
Tell me.
So, like this can be an out of the box question. So,
It's okay. Tell me.
uh, ma'am, like now, suppose the cell is uh, appointed for protection,
Huh?
and like the particular,
Sorry, I'm not able to hear you. The particular?
ma'am, the particular spot, ma'am. So,
Huh.
ma'am, the particular spot where the cell will go. So, ma'am, like how will the cell know? Like this is an out of the box question, I know, but like
Acha.
how will the cell know where to go?
Okay, so that is your question. Acha, so you are basically asking that,
Yeah.
okay, I've asked, suppose cell A to do protection work. So how does it know where to
Yeah.
go and start doing protection work? Okay, that is similar. So this kind of question, again, if you were to ask, it will come to this, right? I think you might have heard that in babies, when babies like, how do babies turn from one cell to a human, right? At at one point of time, all of us were one cell, no? That one cell then divided and formed tissues, formed organ systems, and finally gave rise to a tiny human, right? Okay, I can't draw a baby here, so yeah. So that same process is applicable here. So the cells have these things called receptors, right? If I were to say in simple terms, they have receptors, they have chemicals, all these are like signals. Okay, so these, they use these signals to go and find their spot. Or suppose if you are new in school and you don't know where 9A is, right? If your class is 9A, you don't know where 9A is, there is a teacher, right? The teacher will guide you and tell you that, okay, their class is on the second floor, first room to your right, something like that. So these signals perform the work of teachers, right? They have these receptors, they have these chemicals which will tell him to, well, which will tell that cell that, acha, you have been asked to do protection work, so you go and sit there, or you go and you're supposed to be there itself, something like that, right?
Thank you, ma'am.
This again, this is an interesting question. I mean, yeah, definitely, uh, it was a good question, and yeah, you keep having this question because every small thing, the main example or the main time you have this question is when, suppose you have, suppose you've hurt yourself somewhere, you are in severe pain, like you hurt your hand, suppose, and your hand is paining a lot, but the doctor says you take painkiller, right? And you ingest it, and how do you know that, and that pain stops, right? It actually stops. So how do you know that it actually, the painkiller, how does the painkiller know that it has to go to your hand and stop the pain there, right? So this question definitely keeps coming up in all parts of the, uh, in all, not exactly parts, in all small aspects of bio, as you know, where first being, how does one cell turn into a properly formed organism, like a mini organism, whatever, tiny human, or uh, any animals, baby, etc. For those things, in plants, yes. Then in case of medicines and etc., how does it know where to go and act, right? Because these questions do come is because we don't train our brain, or we don't train anybody, right? We don't train our hand that, you, I'll give you this medicine, so you keep quiet. We don't tell him like that, right? The medicine automatically does its job. So yes, this is an interesting question, but I'm afraid it is, at the moment I can explain it only using this, because for in detail explanation, I will have to tell you what are receptors, what are, what are these lock and key kind of mechanisms which every cell has, and huge scope. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I hope at this stage the teacher's part is sufficient. Okay, yeah. So permanent tissues, coming back to this, these are the basic characteristics, and there are three types, like I mentioned in the flowchart also, and yeah. So the third, this type is generally not written in the flowchart, is mainly because uh, this forms a different category altogether. So sometimes you'll find it in some flowcharts, and you'll find it in with different names also. So don't get confused, or don't feel worried that, if you see epidermis and cork in the same flowchart with a different heading, something like supportive also, right? It could be under this heading of supportive also, which is also correct. There's nothing wrong with it. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So three types, we'll cover them in a bit. Yes. Okay. Yes. So first type is the simple permanent tissues. As the name suggests, simple means they are made up of one type of cell, right? Okay. And there are three main ones, which are parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. Spellings are very, very important here. Okay, I will add this point also. In your notes, wherever you wrote that note, add this also, spellings. Uh, Parenchyma looks relatively easy, right? But collenchyma and sclerenchyma people tend to make mistakes, and collenchyma then get of cell which is known as chlorine. 99% chance of getting confused. Make a note of it distinctly and make a mental, write it there itself or put a star or however whatever method you use to remember, that is on you. That I will not say that you must use this or that method only, right? Just I want you to be really clear about collenchyma and chlorenchyma while I'm teaching itself, so that when you revise, you should not be in a position to get confused that, oh, there is a difference, or oh, they are not the same thing, right? Okay. Okay, so we'll go on to parenchyma. Yes. Okay, so these three things which I have written here, since I missed out on the heading, let me write it here. Yeah. So these are the characteristics. Okay, location is not mentioned here. Why? Because there are two more subtypes of parenchyma based on their functions or based on their specialized function, which is why the location is not mentioned as such. If you want to remember the location, it is basically found below the epidermis. You can remember something like that, right? Okay. Is as a general location, it is found below the epidermis, or there is just a second. There should be an image somewhere. Just give me. Yeah, I thought I had added the image. I think I missed out. Uh, yeah. Okay. So there is this really confusing diagram in your NCRT textbook. Yes, now I remember why I did not include it. Okay. Yeah. So this basically they're trying to show you the section of a stem. They've shown you both figures. So basically the parenchyma is located somewhere here, right, in the hypodermis region. Hypodermis region mean, okay, I will use my pen and show it to you. Okay, here. Here somewhere is where parenchyma would ideally be, right? So basically it is below the epidermis, right? What is epidermis? Is the outermost covering or outermost layer of cells. Again, we will come to epidermis in detail in one or two slides, yes, right? But at the moment, for you to understand epidermis, it's just the outermost layer of cells. So parenchyma is usually found below that. Okay. Okay. You can kind of skip this diagram in your NCRT textbook because honestly, I don't know what purpose it serves, because you are not really having that many. So from here, all you can identify is xylem and phloem. The other parts you are not really taught, or you're not really um, introduced to. So I honestly don't know the point of this image here, right? Trichome, if you want to know, is basically a root hair. Okay, so I think they tried to show you a stem and a root part section, but they have written both as section of stem. So yeah, this could be stem hair also. Yeah, that is also a possibility. So trichome is basically the small hair-like projection, the fine hair-like projection you see on any plant, usually found in roots, but yeah, sometimes on stem also. So yes, again, epidermis hypodermis is basically the second layer of skin. Derma basically refers to skin. So epidermis is outside, hypo means inside, something like that. Cortex and endodermis would be the third and final layer of the derma, right? They are always occurring in 3-4 layers, right? And phloem and xylem. So out of this, you can only identify phloem and xylem. So according to me, this is a not very helpful image. Okay. Okay, coming back to parenchyma. Yes. So you need to remember the characteristics. Mainly they are live. They are unspecialized cells with thin cell wall. Okay, now the question again comes is, what is unspecialized cells? So now when you are assigning, so when these cells divided, right? I'm just drawing two this time, I'm not drawing the others, right? Acha, I'll draw one more so that it's clear. Okay. Suppose I told this person to do job of protection, right? I told this person you are involved in the food duty, right? And I told this person, suppose you are going to be flexibility, okay? You are going to help in flexibility. And I didn't tell anything to this poor fellow, okay? So this has now and gone and become a parenchyma. That's what an unspecialized cell means, that I did not exactly give him any job, but are these cells useless if you ask me? Then I'd say no. Why? Because they help in, this is, let's say this is the epidermis. Okay, let me draw bigger. This is not going to help. Okay, I will draw a little bit bigger. Yeah, I'll draw here. Okay, I'm drawing it in a horizontal fashion. Okay, so let's say this is your epidermis, which is basically outer layer, right? It is a continuous layer of cells, right? And then I'm saying there are okay, I'll draw with another, here are the chlorophyll containing cells, suppose like this, right? And here again there is another layer of epidermis. Epidermis basically will surround on both sides, right? Because it's the outermost layer. So of course, ऊपर भी रहेगा, नीचे भी रहेगा, right? So now there is this space left in between. Here, if you notice, this is all empty space, na? This region I'm referring to is empty space. Now because of this empty space, this plant can become like this, right? It will lose its shape. How will it be stable, or how will it remain in its position if there are so many empty spaces? So in such kind of situations is where parenchyma is actually helpful. So it serves the purpose of acting as a something like this, right? And there are huge intercellular spaces in between, right? So it is there in these gaps. It does not, unspecialized basically means it does not really have any function other than occupying the gaps and not letting the plant fall down, right? Which is a very big function in itself. But unspecialized here just refers to this part. I just wanted to clear this out, that yeah, it is not being assigned a particular task, but it's not useless either, right? Okay, yeah. So it basically it just occupies these empty spaces, and it acts like a I'm not getting the word for it right now. Bridge the gap kind of function, right? Okay. Yeah. Loosely packed. Yeah. So these are the characteristics, right? So you just remember them as is, because at this stage I really can't explain why they are what they are, right? Unspecialized cell I explained why they are. Why thin cell wall? Again, they are not really doing anything, so why give them a thick cell wall, right? Even though they are not dividing, they are not exactly doing anything, so you don't need to give them so much protection or rigidity, etc. Okay, and they are loosely packed, which means that they are not, they are not like this close to each other. They will be like comfortable spaces, like one will be here, the other will be here, maybe the fourth fellow is here, something like this, right? So these gaps in between, let me use another color. Yeah, so these gaps in between which you see here are basically which are known as intercellular spaces. Inter means in between, right? You can use this term to remember in movies, right?
Yes, ma'am.
In midway of the movie, somewhere around the middle, it
Yes.
basically means in between, right? In between there is a break, intermission. So I'm just using these terms to help you remember these new terms. That's all. So something to make you remember. Okay. So that's spaces. Inter you can remember here as in between, right? So the spaces in between the cells. So they are large, right? As shown here in this figure. Okay. What is the function? Yeah, it provides support and it stores food. Okay. Again, something you can remember as it is. Yeah. Diagram is important. Usually asked as identification. They'll just give you a mass of cells. This is, unfortunate and annoying, but yes, it is asked in the exams. So parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, if they give it to you without color, they all look like a mass of cells, right? They just look like blobs. But unfortunately, you will be questioned on the blobs and you'll be asked to identify that. Okay, tell me which is this blob. So yeah, you kind of need to have this image scanned in your brain that parenchyma looks like this, right? The main confusion happens in black and white because you can't really figure out what they are trying to ask, right? Okay. This is a longitudinal section. This is again to show you intercellular spaces, vacuole. Okay, vacuole part, I will not tell you the reason right now. I want you to find out the homework thing first, and maybe tomorrow we can revisit this because the answer is connected here. So yeah, okay, I will come back to it tomorrow maybe. Right? Yeah. Chloroplast, I'll come back. Which parenchyma has chloroplast is there in the next slide. So we'll come back to that. Yes, definitely nucleus. Yeah, it all cells have nucleus, right? Again, revision of our cell chapter. Every cell has three components. What are the three components? Can anybody answer? Okay, so every cell we had discussed in our cell chapter, right? When we started. So the first three things we discussed was every cell has three components, right? Okay, I'll give you a hint. One is nucleus. Can you tell me the other two?
Ma'am, cytoplasm.
Sorry,
Cytoplasm.
cytoplasm. Yes.
Plasma, ma'am.
Okay, the third one. Okay, since you can't
Ma'am,
remember,
cell.
I will.
Plasma.
Yes, awesome. Three things, right? Nucleus, cytoplasm, and cell membrane. So all three things are displayed here. Okay, they haven't mentioned the cell membrane, but yes, nucleus and cytoplasm, they have showed it here, right? You can ignore this middle lamella that is not of use at this stage, right? The other things you can understand and you can like register, right? What is a cytoplasm? What is nucleus? What is chloroplast? what is vacuole, what is this, and primary cell wall, right? Okay. Okay. Now some parenchyma are, some parenchyma have chloroplast in them, and thanks to the chloroplast, they are able to perform photosynthesis. So such kind of parenchyma are what are known as Sclerenchyma. So this ideally here is a picture of Sclerenchyma. This should be Sclerenchyma, right? Why? Because it is a parenchyma which has chloroplast, right? So basically, parenchyma which has chloroplast. Why am I saying that? Why am I saying you don't need to write it down? It's there in the next slide. I'll just move to that in a bit. Why am I saying parenchyma with chloroplast? Is because, yeah, is equal to this. Yeah. Why am I saying this? Because it Sclerenchyma performs all functions of parenchyma and additional function of photosynthesis also, right? So yes, so Sclerenchyma will provide support, it will store food, and it will manufacture food. That's basically what I'm trying to say, that it is a parenchyma with chloroplast, right? Okay. Okay, it is there in the next slide. We'll just go to that. Yes. So there are these two terms you need to know, which are two types of parenchyma, right? Specialized parenchyma. One is Sclerenchyma, right? The parenchyma which has chlorophyll and performs photosynthesis. And the other one is Arenchyma. Arenchyma is basically in aquatic plants. Aquatic plants example is here, right here, Lotus and water hyacinth. Among these two, I think Lotus, most of you might have seen. Water hyacinth, you might have seen, but you might not know that this is the name for water hyacinth, right? You can Google the image, you'll definitely get it. Maybe then you can find out if you've seen it, right? And Lotus is something like this, right? The leaf is on the surface of water, right? Again, Google and check. You might have seen an image, if not in real up close, right? Okay. So in aquatic plants, there are large air cavities present in parenchyma to give buoyancy. Basically, is a property which helps any organism or anything to float. Why am I saying thing is because it could be applicable to objects which are in liquid, which means I can talk about ships also. Okay, this just ended up as two boxes, right? I was trying to draw a ship, right? Okay, this is like a boat. Yeah, so buoyancy is the property by which they, they bob up and down. Maybe I can say in simple terms, right? Or they are on the surface, they don't sink, right? Okay. Again, it is not exactly flotation, it is something different. Yeah, maybe you might come across this in physics. Yeah, in physics, I guess, some one of the chapters, right? Okay, so here, yeah, basically the basic idea here is that to help them float, to keep them upright here, to ensure that this leaf of this lotus is on the water, like it doesn't drown, right? Yeah. So what helps in that is air cavities. Like if you know, a ship is also hollow, right? So that's the air helps it to float because it is hollow. If you fill the base part of the ship, this is known as the hull, right? The base part. So if you fill this base part with metal, or if you are completely filling it with any substance, it will sink, right? Again, all this has to do with density and other physics properties also. So yeah, at this point it's sufficient to know that it helps them float. The air cavity helps them float, that's all. Yeah, and these are just examples. These are usually not asked. These diagrams are not asked. You are not asked to identify a parenchyma. I mean, identify Sclerenchyma and Arenchyma because they look the same as parenchyma. I mean, how will you know that which is which, right? So yeah, usually they don't use the diagrams to ask you. They ask you in the form of fill in the blanks. What they will ask is fill in the blanks. Very popular 1 mark question from this chapter, right? They'll ask you that dash parenchyma contains chlorophyll. So you should know it is chlorenchyma and not collenchyma, right? Okay. Our dash helps aquatic plants float. So you should know it is parenchyma. Okay. These images on the right side are just to give you a brief idea as to, okay, this is how they look, though I'm not sure they might be that helpful. Okay. Okay, going on. Okay, I'll just quickly cover collenchyma, sclerenchyma, and epidermis, right? There are just 3 slides and then we can end the session, right? Just 10 minutes more. Okay. Collenchyma, here, yes, you have a precise location here, which is leaf stalks below epidermis. Again, like I mentioned in the picture previously also, everything is below the epidermis itself. So exact location can't be pinpointed for these 3 tissues. These 3 as in parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, right? Okay. So leaf stalks below the epidermis, characteristics are living, elongated, irregularly thickened at the corners. So this is the one which is the distinguishing feature or which is used to identify collenchyma, right? You use this feature to identify collenchyma, right? Because others are not that helpful. Sclerenchyma is also elongated. Sclerenchyma is dead though, but in the image you can't really figure out, right? So yeah, that is a different story, that a sclerenchyma looks completely different. Yeah. Um, so you can use this feature to pick up which is collenchyma from the figure, right? Yeah, and they have very little intercellular spaces, right? If you notice here, they are very close to each other, right? There's no gap. Okay. Functions again same. They are all types of simple permanent tissue, which means they have just simple one type of cell, right? They are involved in flexibility, they allow easy bending, right? So in the first slide, when we were discussing difference between plants and animals, remember I told you the coconut tree stays slant, etc. So yeah, this is what helps it stay like this, right, without breaking. Collenchyma and mechanical support. So these are found in all plants. Okay, this is not like found only in 1 or 2 plants, etc. They are found in all plants, right? It depends where it will be found or which parts. Again, that depends. Sorry. Yeah. So again, here also there are 2 diagrams: the transverse and longitudinal section. Um, Yeah, basically you can use, this is the one which is usually asked, not this one. This is the one which is usually asked. And again, they will just give you a black and white image of this and ask you to identify what it is. So you need to know that, okay, it is collenchyma. So get used to seeing black and white pictures of all these tissues, right? That would be my suggestion. Okay, let's go ahead. Sclerenchyma, yeah, sclerenchyma, yeah, like I said, it looks completely different, so it is easy to identify compared to those two, right? Parenchyma, you can remember just as a blob. If they give you a blob of cells, that's parenchyma. If they are thickened at the corners, it is collenchyma. And if it looks completely different like this, it is sclerenchyma, right? So this red portion will actually be black in black and white images, right? You can remember it like that. Okay. Again, location, this is a bit specific because it forms a kind of a hard tissue, okay? Yeah, so they are present in stems around vascular bundles. Vascular bundles here refers to xylem and phloem. Since we have not covered at this stage, I will write it here, right? In tomorrow's class, when we discuss xylem and phloem, Yeah, we will also be discussing the fact that they are actually called vascular bundles, right? Okay, present in stems around vascular bundles in the veins of leaves and hard covering of seed. Or the one seed you can take an example is coconut. So this sure what you call it. I think it's usually called coast for making chutney. I'm not sure how many of you make it at home. Of completely right. That hair-like thing that is nothing but sclerenchyma. Okay. And nuts, if you were to take an example, would be walnut. It's also present in the walnut, right? Okay. Sclerenchyma is also present in the form of sclerides in pears. Have you eaten pears? All of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So it is green.
I have eaten pears, but
Sorry, I couldn't hear. What?
no, I was just saying that I have eaten pears.
Acha, you've
Like,
eaten, right? Huh. So pear may, when you
yeah.
eat the pear, you get that gritty taste, na? That like some, it's not smooth, it's some, you get a
Yeah.
gritty taste, right? So that gritty taste is because of sclerenchyma, because of sclerids actually. Sclerids is a specialized cell of sclerenchyma, so that is present in pears, right? Inside. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Huh. So sclerenchyma, yeah, the diagram there is nothing much to show because mainly here, yeah, the distinguishing feature for sclerenchyma would be that it is dead, right? Yeah, and they have very thick walls, and this is thickened due to uh, this substance called lignin, right? Again, what is lignin is not asked in detail, or you're not asked to define it. So if you remember the name is enough, lignin. How will you remember lignin? Okay, let me think of a way. I don't have anything on top of my mind right now. Okay. Long and narrow, yeah. As you can see in the longitudinal section, right? Narrow. Lumen is basically the inside part that is called the lumen here. And lignified thick wall. Okay. Yeah. Lignified means it's covered with lignin. Okay. Main function strength. All of them are involved in strength or, giving, since they're present in between or like they're just covering up the gaps, they basically only offer mechanical support, right? Unlike only parenchyma also stores food, right? The others are usually just support. Okay. Okay, this is done. Yeah, again there is a table and yeah. What I'll do is I'll just share this PPT right now only so that you can watch the videos, right? Instead of, or should I send only the video links? Is that better? Which is better?
Just send the PPT, it will be better.
हाँ, okay, ठीक है. So you can study also. ठीक है, I'll do that. No, I thought if I send the PPT, clicking the video link might not be possible. So I was wondering. Okay. Okay, I'll send the PPT. What if the video link is not accessible or there is some problem, you can tell me. I can send the video link separately, right? I can do that. Okay. So again, this is a concise table, something again which might be there in your chapter notes, right? Definitely. This is again useful for revision, right? When you are revising, you might not have time to read every point in detail, so that time you can just look at this. Again, it has all the same points we discussed, so I'm not going over it. Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is just extra images. I just wanted you all to be familiar with the images of parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma, like all possible types, because we don't really know from where they pick up images and ask. We hope it is from NCRT, so we hope so. These ones, whichever I've displayed here, are all from NCRT itself, right? That's why I did not change it. Because yeah, if it comes in the exam, hopefully it should be the same thing, same black and white picture. But this I added just as for better understanding, like for you to know how they look, right? Because it's given better here. This is a picture, I think, in Britannica. Yeah, Encyclopedia Britannica. Yeah. So again, yeah, you can see how it looks, etc. What up? Where is the intercellular spaces, etc. All those things. Okay. Yeah. Coming to the last topic for the day is protective tissues. So there are two protective tissues. One is epidermis and one is cork, right? So epidermis is basically, if yeah, I have a image in the next this, but if I were to explain what is epidermis, right? Suppose this is a plant, right? So now this plant, because it cannot move, it cannot take shelter, etc. You already know, right? That there are animals which feed on plants, etc. So plant can't move and run, or it can't protect itself from that. Yeah, of course, there are certain measures the plant has come up with over time to prevent it from being eaten and all. But my main point being here is that basically plants can't run away from danger, right? That's all I wanted to convey. So what can it do, right? So now if animal is an extreme, or it is like a big object, like suppose if this is a cow, uh, yeah, wow. I mean, sorry for the horrible diagram. Yeah, animal would be a huge predator, or like a giant predator, right? What happens if I'm talking of fungi or bacteria or particles from the air, or let's say heavy raindrop, hails, snow, uh, etc. You get my point, right? Dust, all those kind of small minute things. How should a plant protect? Anything harmful is danger itself, right? Like if I were to give an example, so we have eyelashes, right? Sorry, yeah, eyelash, right? We have eyelashes because dust particles or any foreign object should not enter our eye and scratch our eye, right? That's why we have these long eyelashes which just capture the particles, right? And they don't let them get inside, correct? Similarly, plant has come up with a protection system to protect it from all these foreign objects, or uh, dust particles, or any other kind of unwanted entity, right? Let's just call it unwanted stuff, unwanted objects, right? Yeah. So what is that protection it has come up with is basically nothing but epidermis, right? If you remember it like this, then it is easy to relate that epidermis will be definitely a continuous layer of cells which extends everywhere, right? It's like this envelope which this plant has, right? So that you know all these dangerous things don't enter easily, right? So yes, and definitely it should be the outermost layer, right? What is the point if it is inside somewhere in the plant, that unwanted object, let's say some uh, dust particle has fallen on the plant, or some huge stone has fallen, etc. Like a pebble is enough, right, for a plant to be considered huge, right? So there is no point if it is going to break through half the cells and then encounter a protection layer, right? So it should be outermost, right? That's why it is outermost. Second thing, it will be it covers the entire surface, right? The only gaps will be stomata. That is the only gap. Other than that, it runs through the entire surface, right? Yeah, on aerial parts of the plant, it will secrete a waxy water resistant layer on their outer surface. This is a self-sufficient point, as in the explanation is also given here, that why. So aerial, again, it refers to the parts which are exposed to sunlight, or which are exposed, right? Uh, Mainly root tips, leaf tips, flowers, right, which are on the tips, all those parts, they have waxy water resistant layer, right? So when you touch some leaves, you'll find that they have this waxy kind of uh, touch to it, waxy kind of feel to it, right? So this helps in protection against loss of water, mechanical injury, and invasion by parasitic fungi. Right? Again, these are just some examples that main what all it will protect against. There might be many more things it actually protects against, right? Okay. Continuous layer, what does continuous layer mean? This is the same point here, right? Which basically means there are no spaces in between. That's what I wanted to uh, highlight again, which is why I mentioned it again. Okay. Relatively flat as in it does not have multiple layers, right? Because it's single layer, it will be flat only, right? Be one cell thick, basically. Outer and side walls are thicker than the inner wall. Again, this is just a point. I mean, if you don't remember it also is fine, not an issue. At this stage, I can only tell you that yeah, it has outer and side walls are thicker than the inner part of the wall, right? Yeah. Why again being you want it to be thick because this small or these objects, if they touch the plant and if it is thin, it will immediately break. There will be a scratch on the surface, right? So those many cells will break off. So for all this to not happen, these walls will be thicker, right? Okay. And yeah. So yeah, now there is a revision time. I have, yeah. So this is a basic block diagram for epidermis. This is just for your understanding that epidermis will be there both sides, right? So if it's on top, it is called upper. On the lower side, it's called epidermis. I hope you remember in cells we discussed, right? Where is stomata? So if this is the leaf, stomata are located on the underside of the leaf, right? Why? Because they minimize water loss. If it's on the top, the water loss is higher, right? Okay. You can revisit the stomata part today after class, so you'll remember all those things, right? So this basically is this exact version of this. You could take it as a leaf. Ideally, they've shown a leaf here because stomata, etc. They're showing, right? So yeah, the waxy resistant layer is generally known as the cuticle, right? Then there is the epidermis and there will be an epidermis layer here also. So these are these cells which bridge the gap or which basically, don't let the plant collapse like this. Okay. And this is the vascular bundle, etc. Yeah. Just a rough idea for you to understand how does it look like. Okay. Yeah, coming back to our stomata part. So the only holes on the epidermis will be the stomata region, right? The stomata part. This is just a recap, right? I think you should be knowing this. You can go through this later, right? We discussed it in cells. Yeah, and this is modification in the root and modification in desert plants. So in the roots, what happens is that, yeah, there is this definition here. Okay. In the roots, what happens is that there are long hair-like parts on the epidermis, right, which is known as root hair, and on the stem, it's known as the trichome, which we saw, right, that greatly increase the total absorptive surface area, right. This is the same reason we have cilia in our intestines, right, increase the surface area, correct? Okay. That's one thing. And in desert plants, the epidermis has a thick waxy coating of this chemical substance called cutin, right, on the outer surface. So what is cutin is basically the waxy substance present on the plant surface, which makes it waterproof. The same thing is given as the definition, right? The same statement, right? Okay. And yeah, this video, if you could look at uh, after class, this has everything in detail, like all these adaptations of epidermis, etc. Everything, whatever is mentioned on the slide is given in an animated form, right? Okay. And what is cork, right? For cork, you just need to remember this much. that okay, so difference between epidermis and cork is the only thing which is important. This again is similar to what happens to meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. I'm saying similar and not same because epidermis does not stop dividing to give rise to cork. Okay, cork is not like that. Cork is just epidermis which has grown old. You can think of it like that, right? It is not given a new function. It is not given a new task. But yes, it is epidermis which is old. Remember it like this. If I were to write it, epidermis which is old, right? That's the only difference between epidermis and cork. Because it is old, it has formed these thick layers, right, outside. Yeah, and epidermis which is old means always division or anything happens from inside, right? The plants don't divide from outside to inside. It happens from inside to outside, which means that new cells are always inside in the innermost region, right? Okay. And the older cells keep going outside. That's why cork is like this thick layer on the outside of a plant, right? Or the thick stem you notice on trees is nothing but cork, right? Okay. So these points are basically that's what is written in the epidermis which gets old. That they have mentioned the process that what exactly happens, right? Okay. And characteristic cork is dead, right? And cork is compactly arranged without intercellular spaces, tightly arranged, compactly is tightly, no spaces, right? And there is a chemical called suberin in the walls, right? So you've learned three new terms. One is lignin, one is cutin, and one is suberin, right? Okay. In their walls, and which makes them impervious to gases and water. Again, these three are very, very similar in their functions, right? Lignin, but is a thickening of cell wall in, can anybody tell me in which one? Parenchyma, sclerenchyma, erenchyma. Which one was lignin there? Okay, I guess nobody remembers. Okay, lignin was there in collenchyma, right? Cutin is the waxy covering in epidermis and suberin is found in cork, right? Okay, you can remember this. You can just do a quick recap after class, right? Okay, function is blah blah blah. Okay, we finished suberin, right? Yeah. And main function again, it will be like epidermis, but it of course offers protection. But since it is it is different from epidermis, it mainly involves in preventing loss of water, and being thick it does not let objects enter easily, right? Okay, and this is again a table like the previous ones where you can refer. Like I said, they have the similar kind of functions, but the only thing is epidermis being the younger, and the epidermis generally found in young plants, whereas cork is found in older plants. That is the major difference. If you were to ask me, I could say that. Okay. Okay. So what I will do is I will share this PPT right now itself with you, so you can have a look, right? And you can watch the videos. And yes, after class you are going to find out three things, right, which you are going to tell me tomorrow, right? I'm going to ask you tomorrow, right? Okay, cool. I hope the session was good. I hope you all understood things. I know it got extended a little bit. My apologies for that. I hope I'll cover it in time tomorrow, right? Okay. uh Yeah, if you don't have any doubts, you can leave. See you tomorrow.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, tell me.
Ma'am, can you kindly tell me the days on which the classes will be held?
Oh, hi. Yeah, Samruddhi, yeah, I wanted to ask you a few things also. Yeah, so
Yes.
ninth classes are held usually on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Okay,
Ideally
ma'am.
from 3 to 4:30. Sometimes it goes on till 5, like today.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. And how was the session? Did you like it? Was it
Yes,
helpful?
ma'am. Ma'am, I really like the way you teach. It was very pleasuring.
Okay, okay, good, good. Yeah, if you have any issues also, you can tell me. I mean, I'm open to feedback. Not to worry.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And yeah, so you said you are from Pune, right? So you
Yes, ma'am.
uh does your schedule, like, is it fine with your schedule, or is does it
Yes,
clash, or
ma'am. It's fine.
it's
Ma'am,
fine?
because my other sport class is also not going on right now, so this time is ideal for me.
ठीक है. Okay. Okay. So then you would like to continue the classes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you would like to continue. Fine. So then I'll have a word with Loit sir also regarding this. Cool. ठीक है. Then see
Yes,
you
ma'am.
tomorrow also. I'll send you the link tomorrow. ठीक है.
Thank you,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
thank you, ma'am.
Bye.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.
Ma'am, thank you, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.